Welcome, Giedrė Žickytė, is that correctly?
Yeah, almost.
Yeah. Welcome very much to Lübeck, here to the Nordic Film Days with your first, I think, full-length feature documentary, if you could call it that, called The Jump in English. And it's been shown on other festivals already, and I read that it actually won the Best Documentary Feature Award in Warsaw, right? Congratulations with that. But it's really some story also. How did you come across that story, really?
I heard about Seaman's jump when I was myself visiting in the United States with my previous film. And interestingly, I hadn't heard it about in Lithuania back then because, I don't know, maybe different reasons. So somebody from the audience just told me, have you heard about one man from Lithuania who jumped for freedom from ship to ship? And this thing just mesmerized me. I was just this visual of somebody, jumping for freedom from ship to ship, especially you Germans also know this famous picture, via Iron Curtain when the soldier was jumping. So it really was it looked for me so symbolic. So I started digging into the story, like little by little. At that time, I was working on my another film then, but still I met the character, and little by little, I rediscovered that story, and I found that was much more than just jumping. The story, the jump was just the beginning of the story that was really stranger than fiction. It was for me, like a revelation, like a box. You open and then you find something more. Again, open. And the biggest challenge was how to make it like 1 hour and a half, because I easily could make series.
You were, of course, also very lucky that he's still alive, because, you could use him as the real protagonist in your film. And he's a very cheerful, a very emotional person on top of that. He could as well have been an actor.
Yes, exactly. And we documentary filmmakers, we're always very blessed when we are meeting characters like that, and that we can, but it also has its own challenges, because he had so much energy, so we had to think it. Yeah, but still, it was a great story and a great character, and it took me many years to make it.
I was absolutely thrilled that you would have somebody like Henry Kissinger in your film as well. How did you get him to appear in your film? That's very exceptional.
We just made a request, and as I found out, I was really very lucky that he agreed, because he gets so many requests per day for many interviews. So I think the reason that he agreed shows that the story was important for him. So,
my feeling from the film is also that this story is much more alive in the Western world than it is in Lithuania itself. Maybe because at the time when it happened, it's 50 years ago now, Lithuania was a closed country. There was no exchange with news in the rest of the world.
Yes, you are totally right. And the Soviet press was not writing about the defectors for the obvious reason. They didn't want to encourage others to do the same. But the story was going in form of rumors from lips to lips. So people were talking, and I must say that I heard about about the defections, because we had more defections like Seamanns, and also very colorful and very, how to say, picturesque, also trying to hijack the plane. Also, it was with the ships, or somebody just swim across, the Baltic Sea. Every defection was worth a movie. But the thing is that I never heard about any defection in kind of detail, because if you get close, you just heard something. Oh, somebody tried to defect using that means of defection. But what happened around that defection, and what happened later, and where the story takes until nowadays, this one, I think, so this was what I wanted to make with this film. That was a new thing.
I mean, this story has so many turning points also that you would even believe it. I mean, it's almost like a film script, and there's also been a movie that's been made of it, as you also show in the film. So this is so over dramatic, really. And most of the defections probably, you know, that people defect and then they live their new life. But this thing is probably so spectacular because they turn him back in the first place, and then they try to sort of bring the whole thing to a good end.
Exactly. If Seamanns was not given back away, he would be just one of these hundreds or I don't know, thousands of defectors, you know, from many countries behind the Iron Curtain who were trying, you know, to find a better life and freedom in the Western world. But as we were joking during the shooting, the biggest mistake KGB made that we made him, that we have to say took them back, and that Americans gave him back, and they took him in such a brutal way. So not this action, when the story would not appear in the front page of New York Times, when the people would not go out into the streets and etc.
Well, there is a quite big Lithuanian community somewhere of migrants in the United States. Was it easy to make contact with all these people, or I wonder about the research? How long did it take you? Because you found a lot of people that actually were involved in the real story 50 years ago.
Yeah, so, you know, it took, I cannot say like exactly how many years. It was a process, you know, when you start working, sometimes like a filmmaker's job, for me, so much reminds detectives' work. You know, you start researching, you start, when you ask, and like your network expands, develops, we know other people, so little by little you develop your own network of a story. And there were much more people actually that I met that were connected with the film. But for the obvious reasons, I needed at the end to narrow it down. And it was, for me, it was, you know, the process of filmmaking and meeting all these people, getting into the story, carrying back from the United States in my suitcases, all the like archive materials. That was, you know, something amazing. Like all the newspapers, like people really were collecting, and they were put like newspapers clipped in the form of a books, and they were giving me also for making this film, you know, just a research material, and going through those dusty old papers, you know, that was something. Now people are not doing like that anymore. Now I think they're just using Google and that's it. And then you don't feel this physical archive feeling.
But it really shows the dimensions of the story at the time also, how much room it really took in those people's lives at that time. I mean, he was some sort of a symbol really for the free world. Yeah,
and that was for me absolutely amazing. This is what touched my heart so much. Just seeing how other people worked for the man. For the man, we knew nothing about him. We knew only his one picture from the document which he left aboard the Vigilant when he jumped to the second ship. We knew only his name and one photo for all these years. And we were dedicated their life, you know, their finance, their time, their energy for that. For me, that was really inspiring. And at the same time, it showed how the world has changed, actually. Now we can see, you know, children dying on the shores, you know, trying to, like all these refugee stories that are heartbreaking, like mothers separated from kids. And people react like we put on Facebook, you know, some kind of, oh, I care about you, but nobody makes that much physical actions that we need.
Any longer, no, yeah.
And in that way, for me, it was like a miracle story. It was just like really a miracle, because if not other people action, his fate would be completely different. If not who worked with him. I mean, I just don't know how much we can tell about the film. Is our Q&A will be before or after? So.
I think it's perfectly okay. We talk about everything we feel like, because we're going to sort of name it as a Q&A, and people will know that maybe they should better watch it after the film then. So that should not be the problem. There's one thing I'm very much interested in, because of course, everybody would think that the family probably would have been very, very happy that they now suddenly could immigrate to the United States or whatsoever. But looking at the pictures in the film, when I saw the face of Seaman's wife, she didn't look too happy about it. Neither his mother was looking too happy about it. There was no way back in a way, so they sort of had to come due to the situation. But as we see in the end of the film, they go back to Lithuania, Seaman's and his wife, because they were, of course, missing their home, their country, their culture. Did you speak to Seaman's about how his wife was feeling at the time? How did the family cope with that? Because they also had children that suddenly were thrown into a new country.
And exactly, and I think we were facing all the problems that are so common for all the immigrants. It's not so easy, and it's not so easy to start a new life in another country. And for them, it was a total another country. They didn't, coming from Soviet Union, there was everything that you can imagine, like with just a huge culture difference. It was just, now when we see, now we can, when we travel more, when we can see world, from like
different times today.
Then of course maybe it's less culture shock, but back then at that time there was, we lived behind this closed iron curtain, and all we knew about America that we're like a capitalist, and that we're very, all the propaganda stuff, and at the same time America was like a dream, like a dream of something like a better life. So it was a very mixed feeling. So of course we were facing, the reality was different, like it was a dream, but how can you compare prison and other world? So, and freedom, it doesn't mean that freedom can be easy. Freedom can be very hard. You can work with, but still it's a freedom. You do what you want. It doesn't say that freedom is a paradise or something that you do not need to do. And it has its challenges, even sometimes more challenges, because in freedom, you are getting it for free,
He's telling in the movie that he just about took any work he could get to make his living over there. So he was a...
But he was but he didn't, but still he was in the society where he could speak what he wanted, he could do what he wanted. Nobody persecuted, him. So that's, that was basic human rights that usually we forget, now in a democratic societies, and thinking that there are still countries that has this totalitarian, not I don't know, like anti-democratic things. Because maybe basic right for human rights, it's a freedom, and then it comes all the rest.
As we celebrated some years ago here, 2 years ago, the 100th birthday of almost all the Baltic countries, because right after the First World War, it was the first time that you could be independent countries in charge of your own. And so you probably, how do you say that, you feel how precious this freedom really is, maybe even more than all the other countries in Europe, since you've been occupied by the Soviet Union for such a long time. When did Seaman's go back to Lithuania? How early was that? Was that right after the Iron Curtain fell, or?
No, it was around 2000. Of course, it was not that such an immediate decision, but it also shows how far away you can run away from your roots. And he really, but his children stayed in the United States, and his daughter is still trying to get back her father. He's old, and to live together. But
how is he managing now? How old is he now? I think he was 86 when the movie was screened.
This year he turned 90.
Oh wow!
So like a huge. So of course it was during the quarantine, and he was very unhappy, because when I called him and says, nobody's visiting me, everybody is afraid of that corona, I will die being alone. Please come and visit me. That's like sad situation. So in a way, now we can feel also with restrictions also in our society, something like that little bit, but only a little bit, can remind 50 years back then that status for Seamanns. Because just can you imagine, like Seamanns was working on the ships, and he was for 20 years going working on that, like sailing from one country into another, and he couldn't just go out of the ship, couldn't go ashore because he didn't have, the Soviets were not giving him his passport. So you can imagine, you are just sailing and being all in the ocean.
And don't see anything of the world nevertheless.
And he was a simple man. He was just dreaming about this Grundig tape recorder, you know.
I think that was really one of the funny scenes in the film when that was said. And did he really use that as an excuse?
No, it was maybe his joke, but the thing that he was dreaming about the Grundig, that was really true. And because, as I told, many things I couldn't just put into the film for the obvious reason, but he's really such a big fan. He still has old Grundig at his home. Okay. But the thing is that he really loved music, really. And when he checked on the other ship with, there was the equipment, and there was a German equipment. And he realized what a good quality to compare with the Soviet equipment. So his dream really came, and it's very hard maybe to understand for the Western people. But really, for us, behind the Iron Curtain, I remember, but anything from the West, because I was still a small kid, I still remember all these things. They were really much, much better. And we have so many stories. Now it looks like maybe silly, maybe too economic, but when you are so close, when you have only one type of clothes, one type of shoes, one type of food, and like a tape recorder that is not working that well, that very properly. But we want who are a party members, and that could travel. When they were bringing something from the West, and then we can have a good recordings, good anything. So this inequality in the Soviet Union, when somebody tells, oh, communism was everything for equality, but I don't know more inequality like it was in the Soviet Union. Because it all depended if you are belonging to party or you're not belonging to party.
Yeah.
I still remember how it was like, oh, it's Christmas approaching, and oh, Mama says, I know the owner of a shop, and then we can get mayonnaise. You couldn't. Money doesn't meant anything. You could have money, but you could have some rubles, but you go to the shop and the shop is empty, and you will not buy mayonnaise. But if you know the owner of the shop, then you can get mayonnaise, and then you have for the Christmas this potato salad.
I remember, as you know, that Germany was divided also in Eastern Germany and Western Germany, and I was so lucky. I regard it as luck today that I got in the situation that I could visit Eastern Germany before the Iron Curtain came down. So I experienced a bit of what you are talking about right now. But of course not comparable. Yeah, you grew up in this system.
And it's so interesting that I still remember from the childhood that from us in the Baltic countries, East Germany, Czechoslovakia, Poland looked
that was like dreamland too. Yeah.
It's a Western world. And my father had his first, trip abroad due to his work. It was also to Germany, and he brought a Nutella and Snickers. And I was like, oh my God. And my father so much liked Nutella, when he told that these few weeks when he was working in Germany, he was an architect, and he was sent to the under some stipendium, he told every breakfast I was eating Nutella, for breakfast, lunch, for dinner. Now it looks, and this is, now we go to the shop, we see Nutella, and you don't have any emotions to that.
Yeah.
When you can get anything, it looks something really like these palms that Seamanns was dreaming about.
I wonder that you were so lucky that this ship he jumped on even exists still today, and that they still use it as a Coast Guard ship. I mean, how did you get permission to film on that? I could imagine that's not very easy because it still is American territory in a way.
Yes, it is, and it was not easy. It took me 1.5 to get permission because as you mentioned, film is still working. It's not yet. Now it's not anymore, but at that time it was still. When I found out that the same ship still exists, I realized, my God, I need that ship. I need that ship. So we were trying. So from the first email that we wrote, it was, I don't remember, 2015, September. And finally we got on the ship in 2017, May. So it really took a long time, and we needed to get permissions to see the schedule, because the ship goes for a long like journey. He needs to come back, and they needed also to sail away. But the Coast Guard, when they let us on the ship, were very supportive. They gave us like for a few days, all the crew was working for us, and then I was really very thankful. But I couldn't believe that I will get on that ship. When finally we went there, I was ready to kiss it, because it took so many years, emails and efforts.
But it's of course it's just perfect for the entire film that you could get. I mean, that really gives you the creeps in a way, and you could even Seamanns is so emotional when coming back on that ship. I mean, you can almost feel it.
And it was the very last moment, because we made this shooting, and then after we filmed, the crew went for the last journey to the Cuban shores, where we were trying to catch these drug dealers, for the 6 months again. And when we came back, the ship was already dismantled. So
okay. Okay. Even the officers, the American officers of the Coast Guard that were involved in the story, they're still alive today, and you still can feel how emotional they still are about it. They really got punished that time because they didn't handle the situation right. Is that true?
Yeah, it's true. Of course, the one who gave the order, Admiral Ellis, he's not alive anymore, and I think he's not agreeing to talk. But I am very thankful that the captain of the Vigilant, who had to follow the order, so he agreed to talk. And yes, but somehow he accepted in a stoic way his plan. He accepted it as it is. And as he told me, the Coast Guard was good for me. They gave him a very good job on the shore. He still was working on the Coast Guard, and he was heading like a big department, but he never went to the sea again. But we made, and I'm still in contact with them, because like next week we will have a premiere in New York film screening.
Great.
In NYC film festival, and I'm in a constant emails with them, and they're very waiting to see the movie. And
they haven't seen it yet? They don't know it yet?
I want them to. So we will also celebrate North American premiere, give them complimentary tickets, and we agreed that we will, because it's very sad that due to the pandemics, I cannot travel, we cannot meet all physically, but we hope maybe next year we can do it, and we can have a screening on a big screen.
On a big screen. So didn't you have any screening on a big screen this year so far?
I was lucky. In the Rome Film Festival, it was just before the lockdown, we had a physical film. So now every film screening for me is a gift. Yes, we had in the Rome Film Festival in Warsaw also, we had a physical screening, and after that all the theaters were shut down. And next week, Tallinn Black Nights Film Festival, we're still making like a hybrid version, like a physical screening.
I cross my finger that it stays like that, because that's what we planned exactly, and then a week before.
I marked in my calendars like a Lübeck And I've been in Lübeck before with my previous films. And I want to say that the audience in Lübeck Film Festival is really, really just great. And I don't know if now is are watching, because I remember I was with my two previous films here. And when I was with my second film, I met the same people who saw my first movie, and then we went for a coffee and we had such a nice conversation, and like really I felt like very cinema lovers, very devoted, and very nice audience. So if you're watching now, just my warmest regards.
They will be very happy to hear that. But yes, the people here really appreciate the films from the north and also from the Baltic countries. And I have to say that it's also some development that Lithuanian film has taken since I first saw Lithuanian films back in '92 or so, where you could see that it was still the old Moscow Film School, you know, and today you are really filmmakers up to date, state of the art. You have great stories, you have really, it's not only this art house film style any longer, but you really have great stories to tell, and it's such a pleasure for me also to watch these films, and I think that's the same that the audience feels as well in Lübeck. So so we can only hope that you will be back, and don't let me forget to mention that you also have your own film company. You have your company Moonmakers, so you are also a producer now, producing many other films.
And so this film is like my first film, when I opened my company, I started with a jump. But meanwhile, we also produced other films, Red is Blood and Orange, but is now going around festivals. I work with a film director, Maria Stanita, with a young film talent, and we're going to also to release her debut film very soon. Unfortunately, still it's in pandemic times, but you know, it is as it is.
Hopefully this pandemic is over sometime, and I can see you have a lot of projects that you can bring to Lübeck next year. So isn't that promising?
Yeah, but maybe because really all movies will take time. It's to make, not you. I never, at least me, I'm not a Fassbinder.
Well, anyhow, I think this film is really heart-touching. As I said, I mean, you call it a documentary feature film, and that it is in a way, because this is a story only life itself can write, and it's so touching, so heartbreaking. So thank you very much for bringing this story alive again, because I haven't heard about it yet, but it's obviously been a big story some 50 years ago. But great. Say hello to Seamanns from us all from Lübeck, if you should talk to him again. See, we love his story. We really admire him for his courage. And yes, and I can only wish him the best. And well, say hello to everybody there.
I can tell that after the Rome screening, we even had like a small, like a COVID limited people reception to celebrate like film premiere. And I called to Seamanns because I was so sad that he couldn't be with us together. And we have various nationalities, Italianos, like English, people from England, and I just gave the phone, and the phone was going, like people were just telling him what we were feeling, you know. And Seamanns didn't understand with whom he was talking, like woman, man, English, Lithuanian, another language. But I just heard emotion and tears in his voice. And I realized that in a way he felt like a premiere happened. He felt that his story touched him. Somebody told Seamanns, I fell in love with you. And I felt how he was happy. And that was a moment that I realized that this is why I love documentaries. And this is why we create movies. It's not only about us filmmakers, but it's more about our characters and the stories that we are telling. So.
That I couldn't have put any better. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Giedrė Žickytė, that you was here for us this morning. I think it's noon time in Lithuania. You're a bit later, aren't you?
Yeah,
and then for sure we will hope to see you back next year in Lübeck in flesh and blood, and being able to maybe discuss your new projects or whatsoever. And good luck with the film, and good luck with the screening in the US. And hopefully everything is going to be fine over there after this whole election business now this week. So,
oh my God.
something you're coming to. Okay, was wonderful having you. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye.